True power doesn't scream, it smiles. While the architects of power operate in the shadows, the rest of the world chases the loud aesthetics of wealth. They follow a code that functions less like etiquette and more like combat strategy. These are the polite predators. To them, a handshake is a probe, silence is a weapon, and hospitality is a trap. They say, we will dismantle the operating system of the elite. This is not about fashion or aesthetics. This is about the mechanics of dominance, the strategic rules they use to maintain power for centuries. These rules are designed to be invisible. They are the software running in the background of civilization, unnoticed by the users, yet controlling every outcome. Most people believe that power is forced. They believe it is the ability to shout the loudest or spend the most. This is a misunderstanding. True power is the ability to control the environment so completely that force becomes unnecessary. It is the ability to make your enemies destroy themselves while you watch from the balcony. Once you understand the mechanism, you will see the machinery that turns smiles into submission. The first rule is the weaponization of etiquette. We are taught that manners exist to smooth social friction and make others feel welcome. We are taught that politeness is a virtue, but in the upper echelons of dynastic wealth, etiquette is inverted. It becomes a tool of exclusion and a method of enforcing debt. There is a foundational theory in anthropology regarding gift. The theory states that no gift is truly free. A gift creates a burden, creates a psychological itch in the receiver to repay that debt, to restore the balance of status. If you cannot repay the gift, you become subordinate to the giver. The polite predator exploits this biological trigger to its absolute limit. Imagine an ambitious entrepreneur entering the home of an old money patriarch. The entrepreneur expects a negotiation. He enters with his guard up, prepared for a battle of wits, armed with data and projection. Instead, he is disarmed by aggressive hospitality. The patriarch does not sit behind a desk. He meets the entrepreneur at the door. He insists on the wing-back chair by the fire, the most comfortable seat in the room. He pours a vintage wine worth thousands of dollars, letting it breathe, treating the moment with ceremonial weight. He asks about the entrepreneur's children by name, referencing details he shouldn't remember, implying surveillance disguised as care. On the surface, this is kindness. Beneath it, a power dynamic crystallizes. By managing every physical need of the guest, the patriarch establishes himself as the provider and the guest as the dependent. The entrepreneur relaxes. He feels special. He feels safe. He feels seen by the elite. And that is the fatal error. At stake, this is the velvet trap. By engaging in excessive chivalry, the predator effectively strips the target of their aggression. This triggers a primitive social instinct known as reciprocal altruism. Your brain screams that you cannot attack the person feeding you. How do you negotiate against someone who just called your vision brilliant while serving you from his own cellar? To do so would make you appear ungrateful, uncultured, and aggressive. You would violate the social contract. The predator uses manners to create a double bind. If you accept their hospitality, you lose your leverage because you are now psychologically indebted to them. If you reject it, you look like a barbarian who doesn't understand the rules of civilized society. They also weaponize compliments. This is a subtle linguistic art form. When a polite predator says you are so brave for taking such a risk, they are not praising your courage. They are highlighting your recklessness. They are noting that you are gambling with your life while they are secure. When they say they admire how you don't care about tradition, they are marking you as an outsider who does not belong. They hide the insult inside the praise, leaving the victim confused while maintaining their immaculate facade. If you react to the insult, they can simply claim they were complimenting you and ask why you are so defensive. They force you to attack their mask of kindness, making you look like the villain. Silence is their most devastating weapon. Rule number 2 is the creation of a silence vacuum. In the modern attention economy, we are conditioned to believe noise equals power. The new tech CEO dominates by being loud, interruptive, and constantly broadcasting. They suck the air out of the room with their presence. The old money archetype operates on the inverse principle that visibility is vulnerability. We evolved to interpret silence as a threat. In the tribal era, silence meant two things. Either a predator was stalking you, or the tribe had shunned you. Both meant death. When we are met with silence in a conversation, our amygdala detects a threat. Our cortisol levels spike. We feel a frantic biological urge to fill the void, to prove we are still part of the tribe, to signal that we are safe. The polite predator uses the calculated pause to exploit this neurological weakness. Picture a boardroom where a high-powered consultant is pitching a new direction for a family trust. She is confident. She has the data. She finishes her presentation with a flourish. She looks at the head of the family, expecting feedback, validation, or even an argument. The head of the family does not nod. He does not frown. He simply looks at her and waits. 1 second passes, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds pass. In that silence, the consultant's internal monologue shifts from confidence to panic. She thinks they hate it. She thinks she needs to explain more. She wonders if the fee is too high or if she offended them. So she starts talking again. She breaks the silence. She begins to backtrack, suggesting they can adjust the fees or look at a shorter timeline. i.e., she is negotiating against herself before they have spoken a word. The predator hasn't asked for anything. The silence extracted it. By withholding feedback, the predator forces the target to project their own insecurities onto the situation. They turn the target into an open book while remaining a cipher. They listen not to understand, but to gather ammunition. The predator hoards information while you deplete yours, watching as you talk yourself into a corner. This tactic It works because high performers often suffer from imposter syndrome. They are terrified of being found out. The silence validates that fear, amplifying their doubts like a feedback. While you are busy justifying yourself, the predator is simply counting the cards you are revealing. They know that in any negotiation, the person who speaks first loses. So, rule number 3 is the fortress of non-reaction. Prey animals flinch at every stimulus. A deer hears a twig snap and bolts. A rabbit sees a shadow and freezes. Their survival depends on high-speed reaction to the environment. Predators remain still. A lion does not flinch when a leaf falls. A crocodile does not move until it strikes. Old money recognized this biological truth centuries ago. They drill this non-reaction into children from the nursery. If you fall, you do not cry. If you are angry, you do not shout. This isn't coldness. It is strategic data protection. Every emotional reaction you display is a data point for your enemy. If you show anger, you reveal what hurts you. If you show greed, you reveal what can be used to bribe you. If you show fear, you reveal your point of failure. If you laugh too hard, you reveal a desire to plead. The polite predator strives for an untroubled mind, wielding it as a weapon. When a scandal breaks, such as a lawsuit, a bad press cycle, or a rumor, the nouveau riche panic. They issue press releases. They go on social media and scream they're innocent. They try to control the narrative by adding more noise. This reaction proves the attack drew blood. It shows the attacker matters enough to deserve a response. It validates the conflict. For me, the polite predator responds with aggressive normalcy. If a scandal breaks on Monday, they are playing golf by Tuesday. They attend the opera on Wednesday. They host a charity gala on Thursday. This behavior sends a message that the problem doesn't warrant interrupting their lunch. It makes the attacker look obsessed, hysterical, and small. By refusing to engage, they starve the conflict of oxygen. Consider the dynamic of a high-stakes legal interview. The lawyer tries to provoke the old money witness. He raises his voice. He makes accusations. He tries to get a rise to make the witness slip up. The witness pauses, adjusts his cufflink, and responds with surgical precision, stating he cannot comment on pending litigation. No anger, no defense, just procedure. The lawyer becomes frustrated. He becomes erratic. He starts to make mistakes. The witness remains a stone wall. The fortress of non-reaction turns your energy against you until you burn out. This is active suppression, not passivity. It is the understanding that in a chaotic system, the element that remains static becomes the anchor. By refusing to move, they force the world to arrange itself around them. Rule number 4 is the absolute mastery of proxy warfare. Direct conflict is viewed as vulgar. It is the tactic of the street brawler. It risks collateral damage to one's reputation. It leaves fingerprint. If you must be removed, you will never see the polite predator holding the knife. More likely, they will be the one comforting you afterward. They use social cutouts. They don't gossip directly. Instead, they utilize the whisper network. They find someone influential but indiscreet and plant a seed. They might say casually over drinks at the club that they are genuinely worried about Jonathan. They might mention he looks tired and hope the liquidity issues they heard about aren't true. They frame it as concern for a good man. I say the attack has layers. First, fake empathy. Second, the poison pill of liquidity. Third, plausible deniability by hoping it is not true. The banker listening, feeling like an insider who has been entrusted with a secret, rushes to tell others. The rumor mutates into fact. Investors pull out, the stock tanks. Jonathan is ruined. And who's the first person to call Jonathan? The predator. They call to say they heard the terrible news and offer their condolences. Jonathan believes the predator is his only friend, unaware he is speaking to his destroyer. They also hide behind institutional rule. This is the bureaucratic shield. They don't fire you, the board does. They don't ban you from the club, the membership committee does. They shrug their shoulders and say their hands are tied. They claim they fought for you, but the bylaws are clear. They are never the execution, just the mourner at your funeral. The predator sets the conditions for your failure, then steps back. It is efficient, untraceable, and leaves them with clean hands. They maintain their status as a pillar of the community, appearing benevolent and law-abiding, even as they burn your house down to suit their needs. Rule number 5 is benevolent sabotage. Most people block your path. When you have an enemy, you put up walls. The polite predator greases the slope. Amateur enemies create obstacles that trigger your fighting instinct. When you face a wall, you try to climb it. Friction creates heat, and heat creates resistance. The predator does not build a wall. They encourage your worst impulses. They understand the Icarus paradox, which states that the very traits that lead to success, such as ambition and risk-taking, lead to destruction when unchecked. A new money climber rises in society. He is flashy, over-leveraged, and wants to buy a massive estate that will bankrupt him. A friend would say not to do it because it is too much. The predator says it is magnificent and suits him perfectly. They tell him a man of his stature deserves a seat like that. They feed the ego. They amplify the victim's vanity. They will introduce high-risk investments, framed as exclusive insider deal, knowing the target doesn't have the liquidity to survive a downturn. The target, desperate for elite validation, lowers their guard completely. They overexpand, take on crushing debt, and fly too close to the sun. When the collapse happens, the predator is blameless. They were just cheerleaders. They were supportive. They watched the self-destruction with detached curiosity, like a scientist observing a lab rat. They don't kill you. They convince you to kill yourself. Consider the mentor trap. The predator takes a young, ambitious rival under their wing. They offer guidance. They whisper to be bold bold, encouraging a risky merger that looks good on paper but has hidden toxic assets. They tell the rival to ignore the critics, dismissing the compliance warnings that could save the rival's career. The protege follows the advice, believing they are being inducted into the inner circle. When the regulatory hammer falls, the predator is miles away, lamenting their protege's unfortunate lack of judgment. It is the ultimate betrayal, disguised as mentorship. The predator eliminates the threat not by fighting them, but by accelerating their mistakes. Rule number 6 reveals another principle, that power isn't who you include, but who you exclude. This is the velvet cage. Old money understands the theory of mimetic desire. We want what we cannot have, especially what others possess. If the door is open to everyone, the room is worthless. Value is created by scarcity. They construct invisible walls to manufacture this value. They invite the target to the gala, but seat them at the table near the kitchen, amidst the clatter of service. They grant club access, but exclude them from the Saturday foursome, where the real deals are structured. They allow you into the building, but not the inner sanctum. They speak in code using schools, vacation spots, shared history, and nicknames. This creates status anxiety. The outsider modifies their dress, politics, and speech patterns to fit in. They feel close to power, but perpetually outside it. This is the Zeno's paradox of social climbing. You can get halfway there, and halfway again, but you never truly arrive. The predator dangles acceptance, perpetually out of reach. The outsider becomes a petitioner, perpetually auditing themselves and trying to earn their place. By withholding access, they turn you from peer to ally. Exclusion also enforces loyalty among their own ranks. The threat of exile, or being cut from the list, is social death. In a world built on connections, being ghosted by the tribe is equivalent to bankruptcy. It is a velvet cage trapped by your own desire for a group that has already rejected you. They never explicitly say no, because that would be vulgar. Instead, they say they must look at the calendar or circle back next season. The rejection is buried in politeness. This keeps you in suspended animation, chasing approval that will never arrive. The energy you spend pursuing them is energy you are not spending building your own power base. They drain you of your time and your dignity. The final rule separates the predator from the scavenger. Scavengers need to eat today. Predators can wait. Rule number 7 is the infinite timeline. The modern world operates on the concept of now. It runs on quarterly earnings, viral trends, and immediate gratification. New money is rushed, frantic, and desperate for today's growth. They are forced to show results immediately. Old money operates on the concept of forever. They are curating generational legacy. They are not trying to get rich, they are trying to stay rich. They operate on what is known as patient capital. This time horizon is their ultimate weapon. If you enter a legal battle with them, you are fighting for survival. You are worried about next month's cash flow. They are fighting with inherited wealth from a century ago. They can afford to drag a lawsuit out for 10 years. They weaponize procedure and delay. They file motions, request extensions, and reschedule hearing. They don't need to win on the facts. They just need to outlast you. They bleed you dry of cash and energy until you fold. In investments, the same principle applies. While the novice panics during a recession, selling assets at a loss to stay afloat, the predator buys. They have the capital reserves to weather decades of stagnation. To the predator, you are a mayfly. You are frantic, buzzing, and short-lived. They are the mountain. They absorb shocks that would destroy others. They hold grudges for decades, striking when the target has forgotten the original offense. They will destroy you 30 years after you have forgotten you crossed them. They will hold a vacant city plot for 50 years, paying taxes and refusing all offers simply because they know that in 2 generations, it will be the most valuable corner in the city. They play beyond their own lifespan. When you fight them, you are fighting a ghost. You are fighting an entity that does not need to yield, does not need to profit this year, and does not fear time. This psychological weight crushes the opposition. How do you beat an enemy who has nowhere to be and nothing to lose by waiting? These 7 rules form a coherent strategy of dominance. The polite predators don't see themselves as villains. They see themselves as the gardeners of civilization. They prune the hedges, pull the weeds, and maintain order. They believe their coldness protects order from chaos, and that without them, society would devolve into mob rule. They believe they are the necessary friction, keeps the world from spinning out of control. Understanding these rules is your defense. You do not need to become a monster to survive one, but you must recognize the teeth when they smile. When they overwhelm you with politeness, check for depth. When they deploy silence, match it. When they bait you, become stone. When they offer you the easy path, look for the cliff. The world is not driven by the loudest voice. It is driven by the most disciplined mind. In the presence of this quiet power, ignore the smile. Watch the eyes, calm, unblinking, waiting for you to make the first move. The invitation has been extended. The game has begun.